On this episode of Cold Blooded Cousins, we are revisiting places we grew up looking for reptiles. Yes, this is actually a cemetery. This place is known as Karrakatta Cemetery, right near central Perth, but this place has a population of Gould's Goannas. I haven't been here since Steve and I were kids, so it's the first place I'd like to start on this film.
So we've just come to a spot in the cemetery that has been previously good for Gould's Goannas. I didn't think there would be any around here, but me and Andy have been looking around for some goanna tracks, and we've actually noticed there's a freshly used goanna track right here. So it's pretty awesome to know that they're still around. I haven't been here in probably 10 years. Yeah, it's just good to know they're here still. There's obvious fresh tracks going straight up to this burrow. I mean, it's a bit odd that goannas are at a cemetery, but if you really look around, if you think about it, all these graves are like a rocky outcrop for them. Being near the city, we don't, have much habitat left for them, so this is good enough for them apparently.
It's great to know the goannas are still there, but I must admit I couldn't find any that day. Luckily, I have older footage here of another great herp spot, just south of Fremantle. Here, we used to find all kinds of reptiles, but mostly dugites and Gould's Goannas.
Well, that's interesting. Look at the female. She looks like she's got much bigger eyes. Wonder if that's a thing. Two very nice looking goannas.
We aren't sure, but we think these are a breeding pair of Gould's Goannas, as we have seen them together on separate days. Gould's Goannas are fairly common Australia-wide, but they love this sandy coastal soil to burrow in. Another name for them is sand goanna, or racehorse goannas, because they can reach super fast speeds. One day, I managed to grab a different one as it just started climbing a tree.
This is a Gould's or racehorse goanna. We just chased him up a tree, and we think it's a male for obvious reasons. He's got a nice yellow underbelly and a pretty powerful thick tail. This is one out of 2 goannas found in the Perth region, maybe 3. The blacktail monitor and the heath monitor can probably be found here, I'm not sure. How's that golden tail in the end? Now he's got a forked tongue, a bit like a snake, and they use that to sense where their food is.
Now we're finding this on after a couple of days of rain, coldest days of December we've ever had basically, so kind of just warm enough for slow reptile activity. Early December. Oh, yeah.
Check out the old scar. Obviously recovering.
Gnarly scar, man.
Wonder what that is. We've been meaning to get one of these guys on film for a long time. How's that forked tongue, just like a snake. I just love their beautiful yellow coloration, and they feel like a dinosaur.
He's got a bit of an old scar on the back, but yeah, apart from that he's good to go.
This is in the same family as the Komodo dragon or goannas, and he's got big ears, so he's got really good hearing, unlike snakes which can't hear at all.
Yeah, also got very good eyesight and a brilliant sense of smell. Really brilliant sense of smell. Alright, so we're just going to let him go now. Come on, mate. Alright, might need a little bit of help. He's got his claws on my hand. Yeah, let's take that one off in particular. Alright, time to let him go.
Woohoo!
Now the best way to find snakes is lifting tin in the cool weather.
Alright, we're back home in Perth, West Australia, and looking for reptiles, looking under bits of tin, under old, this is old stuff from the war. It's really good for finding reptiles, so let's see what's under here.
Oh, you can see his head right there. Both on that upper section, he's going to go. He's going. Got him.
Whoa!
This is what's known as a bluff strike.
Pass me the other stick, please. I'll just calm him down a little first. He's a little fast. That stick's kind of annoying me. Better. Okay. It's springtime in Western Australia, and that means the snakes are just starting to come out. Now I know it doesn't look that bushy here, but this is an old area, an old settlement, was used in World War II, and it's long been abandoned. And snakes absolutely love to hide under bits of tin this time of year. It gets them nice and warm because it's only just starting to warm up at the moment. In Perth, this is the #1 cause of bite, of snake bite, the most common snake. And also one of the more difficult ones to handle. Now this is a dugite, or the spotted brown snake to some people, Pseudonasia affinis. Pseudonasia means false cobra, and so it's a member of the brown snake family, so closely related to the western brown and the eastern brown. This is the most common snake of Perth, and they really love to live around human settlements. They feed on mice. You know, come into people's houses, they've been brought in by cats, they've been attacked by dogs. Now, they've got a very potent neurotoxic venom. I think it's about 10th, 11th, 12th on the toxicity scale for snakes. For land snakes anyway. But they've got very short fangs. So, they've got very short fixed fangs, which means you don't often know if you've been bitten. It's just like getting a scratch or something, but the venom they give you, and they don't give you very much, but what they do give you is incredibly deadly. And you definitely need to go to the hospital and do your first aid if you've been bitten. Now, they come in a few different colour forms, the dugites. Often they have a dark head, particularly when they're young, they have a dark head and not so many spots. So something typical about the dugites is they all seem to have spots for the most part. Most of them seem to have spots anyway. Sometimes you get a banded form, though they're not too common. And they're all different shades of brown and olive brown and cream, yellowy cream. And they've all got these tiny little heads that are typical of the brown snakes. They're quite a slender snake, these guys.
Dugites are very common in bushland reserves around Perth, as their favourite food is mice, so they can be very common around humanised areas, but usually they're very quick to get out your way, and you rarely get a good look at them.
Now, dugites are interesting. I've found that after you handle them for a little while, they come right down when they realise you're not a threat. Though, no snake is completely predictable. Okay, so it's October. We've had a very cold spring, and just found this very weighty dugite here underneath a bit of tin. Now he's settling down a bit. Bit feisty, got a fair amount of weight.
This is an example of another dugite nearby on a different day. This one is fairly larger than the previous dugite, and the longer they are, it seems to be the more easier they are to handle. Adult dugites sometimes are less jumpy than the young ones, and they are a bit more easier to manage. Most dugites are seen active on warm, early mornings or late afternoons in spring, summer and autumn. They are usually active basking, looking for a mate, or hunting for lizards or rodents, maybe even a small rabbit or a bobtail. It's quite common in the right warm weather to see these snakes active crossing footpaths in summer, but unlike the tiger snakes, these guys usually brumate in the cold of winter.
We get a bobtail here. Very common in West Australia. Something's attacked him. He's healing from wounds. Something's attacked him recently. Maybe a fox or a cat. For the most part, bobtails are herbivores, though they do like to eat snails and the occasional bug. And it's even said that if you leave dog or cat food outside your house, they'll come in and have a feed. They really like to eat flowers and fruit and all sorts of things. That's his defensive posture, showing off his big scary tongue. He's part of the blue tongue genus, and he's obviously a skink, not a goanna. And he's been through the wars a bit, this one.
After the herp videos in Fremantle, we are back in Perth at a place I'm sure a lot of you have already recognised. If you are familiar with our older videos, you would know that this is Steve and mine's #1 spot to herp in Perth. Why? Because it's full of tiger snakes and it's not too far from the Perth city. There isn't much wetland habitat left for these snakes, so they are all condensed in this area named Herdsman Lake.
So here we are at Herdsman Lake, a place Steve and I grew up looking for snakes. And obviously the one snake, the tiger snake, is what we're after today. They're very common here, and the right habitat is this stuff. This grass next to some water is perfect for them. And that's where you're going to get your tiger snakes. There's a lot of habitats where people think it's really good for tiger snakes, but it's actually not. Like, look at this. Some people might say, oh, there's tiger snakes in there. It's not really the right habitat. They're in this stuff. The nice green grass is where you get your tiger snakes. And also, if the water level's too low, you won't get them in this. You need water, the water level to be right up where all the frogs are, and that's why the tiger snakes are there, because they're feeding on all the frogs that are in the area. So this is what we've come here for. These guys are everywhere. This is the Western tiger snake. And me and Stephen, we actually grew up looking for these guys. It took us a while to figure out where they all were, but they're very common in this exact grass we're looking for. Late Arvo, this guy's getting the last bit of sun. It's actually very warm. It is the middle of summer. They're usually a lot less energetic than this. Usually in winter they're very slow, but in summer they're very active, and they can actually travel quite far. Just look at that beautiful yellow underbelly. One of Australia's most famous snakes. Pretty lucky that they're so common here in Perth. They're a snake me and Steve know really well.
Out of all snakes, dugites and tiger snakes are the ones we are most experienced with.
This guy is very, very energetic.
This one had enough of me fast, so I let it be on its way.
And this is an example of a summer tiger snake. This one's out and about cruising, and he's just spotted Andy. They are very shy, but they do like to explore when it warms up a bit. That's our third tiger snake now in this new spot.
Not too far from all the Perth wetlands is a place called Bald Hill. On a recent night, me and Andy found a cool gecko that Steve and I used to look for a lot.
But this is really awesome. Pretty common here, but just I haven't seen one in such a long time. I haven't been looking for them. Just look at those big golden eyes. This is the southwestern spiny-tailed gecko.
Because these geckos can't blink, they lick their eyes to clean them. These geckos are very nocturnal. and if one has good eyes, you might be able to see one resting on a wattle tree during the day. These geckos can squirt off fluid in their tail to warn off predators.
Alright, so we're just gonna get this gecko off the path. Beautiful little spiny tail. It's been ages since I've seen one. Right here near the Perth suburbs, which is awesome that there's wildlife. So much wildlife out here, really. You just gotta look. Alright, Annie, let's move it off the road back into the wattle tree. Ooh, what a very pretty flower. Love you, gecko. He probably doesn't want to leave his stick. Doesn't want to leave the stick, so we'll just leave it on the stick.
For the next reptile, we are now right in the suburbs in a park we used to visit.
So we're just at a local Perth suburban pond, and usually at most ponds you go to around Perth, you get these guys. Southwest long-necked turtles, or oblong turtles, because they got that oblong shell. There's a small turtle here, and we've just been filming this big guy. Look how big this one is. He's about to bite that stick. He's actually ambushing fish at night, and this is why we come at night. Look, he might even grab this fish here, if we stay really still. He's going for it. There's a fish right on his nose. He's about to go for it. Right on his head. Oh. They call them snake neck turtles because they got a very long neck, very odd for a turtle. But here in Australia, yeah, they're quite common, these freshwater turtles. There's many different species of long neck turtle. This is definitely the biggest one I've seen. And it's a suburban little pond, and believe it or not, there's little turtles in here, little babies as well. These two might be a breeding pair. There's turtles everywhere. This one's got a lot of algae on its shell. It's just about to take a breath. And they do that, they need to take breaths.
Long-necked turtles can live up to 50 years of age. Many of these turtles would be older than me. It's a pretty special moment to witness all these turtles hunting at night.
Even in a suburban pond, he's eating the introduced Gambesia fish.
These mosquito fish, or also known as Gambusia, are introduced from America, but many native species include them in their diet.
It's looking straight at it already. How awesome was that?
That's amazing.
We're actually watching all these oblong turtles. We've probably seen like 10 now, and they're all in feeding mode. This is what they naturally do in the wild. I've never really seen it happen like this. There's just so many Gambesia in here. 4 turtles in the one shot.
It's great to see so many of the reptiles still around where Steve and I looked for them as kids. Sadly though, a lot has changed since we were young, and many areas we found wildlife now no longer exist. This has got to do mostly with the rapid growth and pressure of human development in Western Australia. Steve and I can now understand why the Indigenous Australians are so disappointed in our government, how they can just allow the building industries to make a sea of roof houses to the horizon. It makes us very worried about the future of our beautiful Australian wildlife. We all need to come together to protect it before it's too late. Steve and I's ancestors were early European settlers, and if they could see what has now become of this land, I'm sure they would be very disappointed.